Thank you so much for tuning in to Mom Jeans, trying to fit into motherhood.
Jeans, the podcast. We are your hosts. I am Lisa, a girl mom of 2 girls.
And I'm Danielle. I'm a stay-at-home mom and a military spouse.
And a boy mom.
And a boy mom. I'll remember it, I swear.
That's
too
okay.
many.
Hey, yeah, it's
need a sticky note right here,
right? That's a great idea. I love that. So today, basically, if you're just jumping back in, welcome, or new to the podcast, welcome. What our newest format is we're going through articles we find or Reddits we find. I'm going to start working on more articles and doing those and then going through those. But for today, I'm bringing a Reddit and the title of the Reddit is Gender Reveal Trauma. So buckle up, Danielle. My favorite part is the beginning of it. It says edit to add. For reference, sorry. People were calling her out for it not being real. They think she made up this story. So she posted a video of it being real without doxing herself so that people couldn't find where her house is and who she was. But yeah, I'm like, geez Louise, this was crazy. Anyway, okay. So let's jump into it. So, this is from, gosh, I am really struggling. This is from Short and Sweet 770, and it's in the pregnant subreddit, and it was posted 3 days ago. So really recent.
Ooh.
Yeah. So for reference, I have PCOS and endometriosis and one prior CP at 6 weeks. So I looked that up, and I believe that is an ectopic kind of pregnancy. I have to look that up.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm also diabetic and insulin dependent. I was told chances of kids are slim to none. Husband and I have had several failed letrozole and Clomid cycles. We conceived this baby naturally out of nowhere. I'm 13 weeks today and had our gender reveal yesterday. My relationship with my in-laws has always been rocky, as they were not thrilled my husband and I chose to elope, as he didn't want their input. They tend to rub their misery off on everyone around them. Well, this is their first and probably only grandchild, as his brother has special needs. This is also my parents' first grandchild. Mother-in-law has been calling this baby the boy name she chose since announcing the pregnancy, even after being told that wouldn't be their name, driving me bonkers. Well, it is a girl. My husband even wore his pink and wanted a girl. I was team boy simply because his side only has boys. I thought a girl would be special, but not likely. As soon as the balloon popped, my side, stacked with girls and women, still cheered and was overjoyed. Caught on camera, mother-in-law threw her hands up and had the most awful face, refusing to cheer or anything. My mom ran over to them in solidarity, trying to be cheerful, saying, "Aren't you so excited to have a little healthy grandbaby?" And mother-in-law dodges her hug, says, "No, absolutely not. I wanted a boy," and huffs away. She then turns to father-in-law and says the same thing, trying to hug him. This man says, "No, girls are evil. Can show you where it says it in the Bible." My poor sweet mom in her excitement was dumbfounded and just walked away. And we have all of this on film, so it cannot be denied. Husband is still questioning if he should let them be involved in the pregnancy, when I've told him me and my evil girl want to go no contact as we should. He even chose her middle name after his granny, his dad's mom, and they still were disgusted. I'm in shock. Every man in my life, uncles, dad, and brother, all had to leave before they blew up on him, and my entire side left with me immediately. Even most of husband's nice side, leaving him there alone with his parents to clean up. He did not realize what exactly happened until I showed him the video. I'm utterly devastated and now panicked about this baby's future and my future if my husband wants them around her, because I don't know what I'll do. Gender disappointment is real, but this was far beyond that.
That is so sad. Oh my gosh.
Like, I can't, we've talked about this before. Like, I am super duper lucky. I have great in laws. I know you have great in laws. And I just can't even imagine
No.
having that situation. Like, and how do you tell your spouse, especially if he's somewhat close to the family, like, you can't see them anymore, you can't talk to them anymore, or like what would you do for your kids' sake, like for that being their grandparents? Like, do you want to cut them, I don't
Right.
know.
That's hard. I don't even know like where to begin with that.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd be like, you
I
need to go to therapy and work on yourself before you can come back into my life after that.
I do remember during COVID, I think I've told the story on the podcast before, but I had a friend who did a gender reveal over Zoom, and they had a boy, and they did the gender reveal on Zoom, and I can't remember if they popped a balloon or hit the golf ball or whatever they did, and it was blue, and you could see her face just drop, and she was
Oh
so
no.
upset, and he cut off the Zoom like immediately. Like, everybody was like, and I like texted another friend that was on it, and he was like, "Holy cow, did you just see that?" I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, if you wanted the opposite, sex that badly, why would you do that on a Zoom,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like, maybe
I
record
know.
it and then show everybody the recording, so that if that happened, like,
Yeah. I would just be happy, like, no matter what. And one, we have absolutely no control whether it's a boy or a girl. I'm trying to think because I just wanted to be right with
oh
my
yeah,
reveal. That's why I was so over the top because if you know me, I'm competitive, and everyone was saying girl, and only the people that were like, "Oh, what did you pick?" And I said boy. Like, okay, I'm gonna pick what you picked. And so I was just happy to be right. But I think had it been pink, I would have been just as excited, just
yeah,
because it was fun. But I cannot imagine my parents or my in-laws just saying, "Ah, but I wanted this."
yeah.
And then to reference the Bible and say that women are evil, that is not facts at all. Like,
I
I don't know what Bible you're reading, but
I like, we've talked about it too, that for me, I didn't find out what either of my girls were until they were born. And with Hannah, I had like a pretty, like, I was like, oh, it's a girl because, I was firstborn and Brandon's sister was firstborn. So I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, not that that's science at all, but I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But then when I got pregnant with Aubrey, I was like, it's a boy. It's for sure a boy. There's no doubt in my mind it's a boy. But it was like fun to kind of go back and forth. And I was so afraid of Hannah having a sister because I hadn't had a sister, and I have 3 cousins who are girls, and they would, I mean, as all siblings do, they would fight. And I was like, oh man, that's so hard. And like, will they fight over clothes? Will they fight over boys? And I'm like, thinking about it now, I'm like, that's a great problem to have. Like, I think that's awesome. Like, not, fighting
yeah,
over the boys thing, but to be able to borrow each other's clothes if that works out. I mean, this way, but
yeah,
I will say I definitely had the definite letdown in the beginning of like, man, I'm not going to have a boy, because we knew we only wanted 2 kids. And I really was upset. And I would say, like, obviously I loved Aubrey and I was super excited she was there and she's here, but it probably took me at least 6 weeks before I was like, all right, I'm at peace with this. Like, this is our perfect family. This is what's meant to be. But I do understand the gender reveal letdown, whatever. But yeah,
yeah.
man, I can't, especially like a parent, to do that is so
Right.
hard.
Like, she had control
Yeah.
of anything. I don't know.
How do you
Yeah, that's
how do you think you would, like, hypothetically speaking, when you get pregnant for the second time, like, what do you envision? Do you envision having 2 boys? Do you envision having a boy and a girl? Do you not know? Have you thought about it?
I feel like I envision another boy. I just feel like I'm built to be a boy mom
Yeah.
just because I like sports. I'm
Yeah.
like outdoors. And girls can totally do that too. But if I have like a girly girl, I don't know what I'll do with
Yeah.
myself.
Yes.
Like I don't know how to do hair very well,
Me
and like I'm
neither.
sure I'll learn. But
Yeah.
it's like I feel like I just know Weston right now, but I'm sure like no matter what, I'll be so happy. And Ryan is saying girl, like he like wants to have a girl, and so we'll see. Twins run in my family, maybe we'll get one of each.
Wow. Wouldn't that be
Boy
wild?
and a girl.
That would be
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. I'll never sleep again.
Yeah, seriously.
It'll be great.
Yes.
Yeah, but then we'll have 3 and we're done. It'll be great.
Yeah, there you go.
So until like that euphoria comes back around, like, oh, I think I can have
Ugh.
another.
It's so funny
I
because
hear after 3,
yeah, what difference does it make, right? Yeah, I was laughing because Brandon said to me Aubrey's birthday was 2 weeks ago or so, and he's like, "Can you believe this is our last first birthday?" And I was like, "Don't do that, don't do that. It makes me so sad." Yeah, and he got a vasectomy, so we definitely are done. But like right when I had Aubrey, especially because of the whole like, oh, I'm never gonna have a boy thing, I was like, well, let's just have another, and he was like, no. We're not doing that, because like also telling Aubrey like, hey, you weren't good enough, you weren't a boy, like, sorry, we had to try for another kid, like that's not cool,
right? Keep rolling the dice.
Yeah,
it's like gambling.
End up with a third girl, right? Like, yeah, and I think that is the hard thing. Like, I definitely wanted a boy, and I thought I was going to be a boy mom, to be honest with you, because same thing. I'm super competitive, I always hung out with the boys when I was growing up. And so to me, it's like, ooh, this is like, I hate to say karma, but karma being thrown in my face of like, I was a really rough girl on my parents, and now I'm going to have 2 of them. But yeah, it's going to be so interesting. But man, that poor girl, like when they always want to make everything challenging, that's a rough one. Like I had the same thing as far as the eloping thing. I mean, we ended up having a small family wedding where it was just his immediate family and my immediate family, but I didn't want the big wedding, and my mom really wanted me to have the big wedding. And that was a big source of fighting for us. And that is hard. It's hard because like my mom explains that everything was her mom's choice, and she never got to make her own choices. And so she wanted that same opportunity to do things for me,
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
It's tough.
Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, and then weddings, people get so opinionated about that. Like, it's just your day. It doesn't matter. You're getting married at the end of the day. I don't know why it matters where people sit or like what food you're having. All I wanted was like good music, and we're dancing, and that was it. And yeah, we had our like close family there. We had like a few extra friends. It wasn't huge or anything, but it was fun. But yeah, people were like, I want this and I want this, and don't care. Sorry.
I understand why people want that to be a big deal, because that is like, that's bad to say, but like your last hurrah of like the last thing that's truly about you. And so if you have like a humongous blowout party that you're always looking back on, and how cool is that? Like, I understand people's desire for that and want for that, because I've been to some really awesome weddings. But the wedding ceremony by itself, to me, feels so intimate that it like almost makes me uncomfortable to be at those. Like, we were at, and I've even told her before, one of our groups of friends, and they were so personal in their vows. And I was like cringing, because I was like, I feel like I'm intruding on this really personal moment. And I know they invited me, but I also am the person that gets really embarrassed by sports interviews, like after teams win and they're like cheering and like being obnoxious on film. And I'm like, turn it off. I'm so embarrassed. So it's like, different feeling there for sure.
I feel like that's interesting, because you like romantic books, and I feel like some of them are cringe, and I'm like, oh yeah, people don't say this to each other, do they?
Well, and sometimes I like skim through those parts. Like I'm looking for like, the juicy stuff. Like, give me the plot lines, give me what's going on, for sure. Yeah. I like that, man.
That's so funny. Yeah. Wow, I feel bad for this mom, the soon to be mom. But yeah, she just definitely needs to set her boundaries. And if they can't follow those boundaries, then you're like, yeah, we're not going to see you until you can like respect our like views and what we believe in and what we want for our family, because they're a family now. Like when your son goes off and marries like another woman, and they should know this if they're like so about the Bible, like, you know, a man leaves their mother and father to be with their wife, and now they're a family.
Yeah.
So new family. But
you know what, family dynamics are so interesting to me because I grew up where my mom and her siblings and her parents all lived within 15 miles of each other, and they never moved. Like, they went to Marquette to go to college in Milwaukee, which was like an hour and a half away or whatever, but then they all came back, right? And
yeah,
it was always like a family is everything. Family's everything for us. Only my mom's side, though, not my dad's side. They didn't matter because my mom's side dominated. But, you know, it's such an interesting, like, you didn't have an option. And like, same thing with my mom now, like they'll have her siblings often go through cycles of disagreements and fights, but you never stray from them, even though you are completely opposite and not okay. And we were just talking to, and I was just telling you about a friend of Brandon's that is going to be moving out of the country. And I was talking to them and I said, you know, honestly, like I would seriously consider doing it just to have that cool experience for us and the kids to like, hey, we are just us as a family of 4. We have to figure it out in a language we don't know. And sure, there'll be English wherever we would have gone. But he's like, yeah, like his wife doesn't have a relationship with her parents. And he said his daughter is 2 and his parents have only seen her twice, and like they were close.
Wow. Yeah.
And he's like, so like we don't have the family to stick around for. Like this is an opportunity that we were like, this is so cool. When will you ever get this opportunity again? We're going to go and take a chance. And I'm like, family is the thing that keeps us here. Honestly, I think if we didn't have family, like I've always been a traveler. I've always loved traveling. I think traveling's super important. And I've always wanted to completely submerge myself into a different culture just to see how it goes, you know, but family ties me back. And I can't imagine, I can't even imagine. I'm very lucky in that sense of family where you don't talk to somebody in the family. Like my brother and I are super close. And we haven't always been close, but when I went to college, we got closer. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, that's why this last deployment, we were hoping that we would get Germany or somewhere cool out of the country. So like, oh, well, the military's moving us, so we've got to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, we even joked about like him applying for jobs in Germany. But yeah, it's hard because like I see like Weston with his grandparents, both sides, and just how much joy they're receiving from Weston, and then also like the joy Weston gets being around them. It'd be hard to be so far away that they miss that. So
I think that's an interesting part too, because like I said, Brandon's like, where would you even want to go if we relocated? And I was like, well, here's the issue. Like I would either want Switzerland, which is insanely expensive, or New Zealand, because I went to New Zealand and I loved it. New Zealand is just about as far away as you can get. Like it's so far. Yeah. I mean, when I went, I stopped in Hawaii for a week so that I could break up luckily I have a cousin that lives there, so it wasn't like a big deal, but yeah, like that's so far. But like I think about Brandon's parents live in Michigan, and that's like a 4-hour flight to Phoenix and then a 2-hour drive. So you're talking 6 hours of just travel, and that's not sitting in airports and all that kind of stuff. But I'm like, you know, if we were in Switzerland, it's almost like what's another 2 hours? You know, it's not really that different. Yeah. My parents being a 2-hour drive away, that would be a big deal, and especially since they moved out to kind of follow us, you know. So I think that's a tough one. And my brother's in San Diego, which isn't far, so it's like, man, it's tough,
right? But it's good that you have that relationship with your family, though. So
it is. It is. And I don't, you know, it's like, I told Brandon, I think the hard part I have with it is like, we only have one shot at our lives, right? Like we're only going to be in our 30s once. We're only going to be in our 40s once, and we can't go back and change that. And that's like, we also were talking about here, Arizona does not rank well in the schooling system. It's a very poor schooling system, like 48th in the country. And I've been looking at houses, and they're like, yeah, this middle school ranks a 2 out of 10. This middle school, and we only have 2 public middle schools in town, and they both rank 2 out of 10. And I'm like, are we being selfish living in Flagstaff because we love Flagstaff? When we could.
Ryan and Bryce made it out of those middle schools.
They did. And they're
Bryce has like
people.
All sorts of knowledge, and then Ryan is really good at just leadership stuff. I can't say he remembers a lot of movie quotes and a lot of music quotes, like songs.
Yeah.
But Bryce has like all of this random facts. I think he gets that from his dad, because if you've ever, like, Craig has all the facts about everything.
Funny.
He's like an encyclopedia, and if he doesn't know, he'll Google it, research it, and then come back to you with an answer. So
that's whenever Brandon and Bryce get together, it's like, oh man, it's like they're reciting the entire show of Rick and Morty, and I'm like, goodness. Like, and I remember when they first started doing that in front of me, and McCullough's like, just get used to it. They do it all the time, but at least he's talking to somebody other than me, because I don't care about Rick and Morty. I was like, yeah, same. Like, so, and like every once in a while he'll like do a quote, and then he'll look at me to see if I know what it's from, and I'm like, buddy, like, it's probably Rick and Morty. It's like 60% of the time it's Rick and Morty, but yeah.
Right.
I know. And it's like, that's the hard part too. Like, we have such a good community with them, with Bryce and McKella and some of the other people in town. It's like, oh man, when you have kids, it like feels like every decision you make is such a big decision, especially for them, And I was talking to Michelle today, like, oh, I think I've settled on this elementary school. She's like, for good or bad, I'm not really sure, but man, you're obsessed with this, and like just the right decision, making the right decision about schooling. She's like, I told myself I wouldn't think about it for another 2 years. I'm like, well, unfortunately in Flagstaff, you have to get on all these wait lists. You have to like lottery to get into these schools. And it doesn't feel like you can wait that long. And like, I know I'll be like, oh, I shouldn't have been thinking about this for so long, because it was going to work itself out. It always does. But it still feels big, like I wonder if I went to a different school, how different my life would have turned out, not to say I don't like where I'm at, but you just don't know.
Yeah. My Carroll County education, if you've noticed in my writing, I think I'm a little dyslexic though, but it didn't pan out well for me. I went to college and didn't know how to write an AP paper, but I took college English in high school, but we just like didn't do anything in that class. Same with my science class. We watched Marty Python and animal porn. Oh. That's what she called it. It was animals mating.
Oh.
So she called it animal porn. I didn't think that was appropriate, but I don't think she works there anymore. She was like the hippie. Like, she even said she was a part of the Mile High Club, and I didn't even know what that meant. So
get out.
Yeah, that was,
Oh my God.
Yeah. This was a little old hippie lady who taught science.
Oh my.
Yeah, and she had a snake called Montana.
Oh,
and she had a horse skeleton. So she had horses. This horse died. She buried it. Then she dug it back up after it, like maybe a couple years. Then brought the bones to school. And for a project, kids put the bones together, the horse bones together, and it was in her classroom. What? Yeah. So let's talk about a redneck upbringing. Like, that was my high school.
That's crazy.
People
that's crazy. Like, in where I grew up, your school, you had to go to where you like lived within your district, and you had to go where you lived. Like, it wasn't like you had choices. Here you have choices. You can go anywhere you want, as long as you can get in. And like, my parents' property taxes were like $11,000 a year, which is insane. Like, for reference, where we live, they're like $2,000 a year. That's a huge difference. And the reason is because those public schools were so good. We had a very strong public school. Not that I was good in school. I was very bad at school, but yeah, crazy. crazy. Anyway, like family dynamics are so difficult. They're so challenging because you don't choose them, and you marry into them sometimes too. It's really hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But adventures are fun. I do agree. It's hard, and it's nice to dream about it, but
yeah.
And like family would make it work if they really wanted to, I think, but
they would.
I know money's an issue sometimes, and that's what makes it hard.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just saying, Ryan and I, we're still in that decision of like where we're going to move. And, I know his parents, like, they've made it a point that we'll come whenever, like, if you need us, they're pretty good about that. So I feel like wherever we'll go, they'll come and see us and stuff. But it's a little bit harder with my parents because my dad's still working and they're still just trying to pay some stuff off. So it's just like, makes me sad. Like, when we would talk about like moving to Phoenix, and then my mom's like, we'll never see you. And I'm like, Mom, like, yes, we'll make a point to come see you guys, but you also have to make a point to come see us. And it's quality over quantity. But, we also have been talking about going back to the East Coast, but it won't be back in Virginia. It'd still be about anywhere I think we're thinking would be a 5 or plus hour drive to us. I think it's more manageable for them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just, we just want to pick the best spot for Weston. And yes, school systems though I'm still thinking about homeschooling. So I'm like, just because of that reason, just because of like schools good schools are hard to find. And then if I do send them to like a private school, I'm going to like my job, if I go back to work, would just be to pay for him to like go to school. I'm like, I could just be doing it myself. So it's tough.
It's a really tough one. Like I was just talking to my cousin in Hawaii, and they're debating whether to stay in Hawaii or move. And it's hard. It's really hard because her parents are in Chicago and her husband's parents are in Ohio. So to get to Hawaii is really far for them. Like they might as well be in Europe, it's like the same distance for them to go that way. And I said that I think the guilt of it is the hardest part, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And the grass is always greener too. Like my cousin was living in Belgium and was loving it, and her dad had a heart attack, and to try to get an emergency flight as fast as you can to get to Chicago is, when you're in a different country, is like, it's super expensive and you feel so far, and will you make it there on time? And I think that was their ultimate deciding factor to come back from Belgium, was because of family and wanting to be close for those purposes. And so I think until you're in that situation, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
But
yep. I just think about like Weston when he's older. I don't want him to go too far. Obviously, I want him to adventure and see the world, but I want him to come back and be close. Like I hope that he likes us enough and we pick a nice enough place. He's like, you know what? I can see myself like settling down here, but that's a dream, but I'm not going to like force that or be the mother-in-law like, you're not going to live close.
Yeah.
You're going to live so far away and I'm never going to see you. At least I hope not. I can see myself being that way a little.
It's interesting though. I work for Susan, McCullough's mom, and she was talking to her friends yesterday that were over while I was working there. And she was like, I'll say living in the same town as your kids, sometimes they take that for granted because you're so close. So you don't see them that much. Whereas like if you go and you visit, you're with each other 24 hours a day, that entire time of the visit, the entire length of that visit. And it's almost more valuable, like time together, than it is
when you live quality time.
More quality time. There you go. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
I would be interested though. I think if my parents lived here, I would have my mom over all the time to watch the girls so we could go out. Like we don't really go out because babysitters are really expensive. And, we're also like, Aubrey's still young, Hannah's still having sleeping issues. And until we feel like we can really get those sorted, I think it's really like hard to put that on a babysitter. Though the 2 babysitters we have tried out were fantastic and we loved them. But yeah, it's tough. We don't give them enough, enough time, and we need to do that. But yeah, I would have my mom here all the time. Like, you're watching them, I'm going, get out of here.
Yeah, I would too. There's days that I'm like, man, I need a break.
Yeah.
Like, it would just be nice if my mom could just drive over and hang out with Weston and just let me like go grocery shopping or just like go to a coffee shop and read a book for a second, just nice and quiet. Like, just for a few minutes. And I feel guilty for even thinking that, but it's just, we need breaks. And I'm with Weston like 24/7, like for the most part, except like if Ryan's home in the evening and I go somewhere and do something, that's usually about it. Right now it's hunting season, so I know he's going to try to go like hunting this weekend, but I have a hair appointment on Saturday, so I'm going. You can take Weston hunting.
You do it. That's awesome. Yeah, isn't that crazy? It's like I those like whatever videos on Instagram or TikTok or whatever that are like, the only peace and quiet I get is putting my kid in the car to my driver's side. And I'm like,
I did see that.
I literally walk so slow because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so quiet out here. It's so wonderful. Yeah. It's challenging, man. I don't know. I don't know. It's also, it's such an interesting thing. And I know we've talked about other countries and their leave opportunities. Like, the people we know are moving to Sweden, and they said that they give them 2 years to split between the mom and dad however they want to, but they have to take 2 years between the two of them paid. Yeah, I was like, I would have 16 kids if that were the case. Like, I just getting paid but never have to go back to work, like, I don't, it's a different thing, it's a different way of life too, when they expect you to be with your kid.
Right.
Which is awesome, but also hard. Agree. Really hard.
Yes.
We are getting to the point where Hannah is becoming more self-sufficient, and it's really like the other day we went to the park and there were like 20 kids at the park, and I was like, go play. And I was like really struggling not to go be right on top of her and like make sure she was okay, because our park is designated for 5-year-olds and up, and she's almost 3. And she's very adventurous for her age, for sure. But it's also like, there are like some scary falls she could have on there. And she did. She ended up falling because I wasn't right on top of her. She would have fallen either way. And she was fine. But it was like, it's so hard. It's like, I want to give her independence and keep watching her grow and grow. But I'm also like, that's my baby. I want my baby to be with me,
I know.
It's hard.
Yeah. I know. Playgrounds. I've seen playgrounds in other countries, so I know this is off topic, and they're like, I think you were even talking about this, but I've seen videos and they're like scary, like
so scary.
Obstacle courses almost.
Yes. The one we were at,
you gotta be brave.
The one we were at in Scotland, she was like, Daddy, put me up there. And he's like, I don't think that's a good idea. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like, this is a wild playground. It was so crazy. I was like, this is not America. We would never see this in America, because somebody would sue somebody for sure. Crazy.
Right. I guess we're just a bunch of wusses. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean,
they're like building champions over there.
Oh man, like I don't know. It was, that park must have been designated for like middle school and up. Like, get those kids not getting into trouble. Send them to a really hard park. It was very cool. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that was our Reddit topic for the day. It was, we're very lucky. I think we're lucky.
Yeah,
I can complain about my parents, and I do complain about them a lot, but I still love them, and they would never do something like that. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, what do you think you're going to get out of that? Like, being disappointed in their faces, like. And especially if they had like a miscarriage and had troubles getting pregnant too, like, be glad that they're having a kid.
Yeah, and don't take it personal. I don't know. Like I said, she needs therapy to work on whatever triggered her to have an emotional response to that.
Right? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's weird.
It is.
I guess that she feels like the name won't carry on. Their family name, maybe.
We did have that, and Brandon was like, this day and age, girls are starting to want to carry their name more and more, and maybe we'll have a chance of moving it on if the girls decide to have kids, because at this rate, less and less people are wanting to have kids. And so it's like, you just don't know what can happen. But, yeah. It's all right. So anyway, tell us what you think about this episode and what you would do if that was your mother-in-law.
Yeah. And if you have any mother-in-law stories that you would like to share, we'd love to hear them.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
To read them.
Yes, please. Or
always do it anonymously also.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Any in-law. Or it could be your parent.
Or your own parents. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I wonder if anyone feels like their parent is the mother-in-law. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like their mother-in-law is great, but like their mom would be like the mother-in-law.
My mom,
and I say mother-in-laws aren't bad, but the monster-in-law, like the
my mom's had moments like that where I'm like, did that seriously just come out of your mouth? Like that's not okay. Like that's what are we doing here? Yeah, but maybe one of these days I'll share some good ones of those. We'll see. All right.
Perfect. Well, thanks for listening.
Yes.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.
And that wraps up another episode of Mom Jeans, trying to fit into motherhood. Thank you again so much for listening to us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please consider giving us 5 stars so other mothers out there like you can find us and listen. If you would like, you could follow us on any of our socials at Mom Jeans the podcast. If you have questions, would like to send us your birth story, or give us suggestions or things that you would like to hear, please email us at hello@momjeansthepodcast.com. See you next week.